Hi all, I'm Jack from Quilting Dreams. Today I received my sew sampler box in the mail. Living in Australia, we do get a little bit up behind some of the other countries, but it's definitely Happy Mail Day for me today. Today we're going to have a look at what's in the sew sampler box and create the block number 2 of the Pieceful Baskets. So let's get stuck straight into it and have a look at what's in the May sew sampler box. So first up, on the top you get the May Days is the vibe for this box. On the back of this there's a coupon and there's an alternative quilt pattern for the sew sampler members. So it's certainly something to look forward to in your box. The next item that's in the box is called Flatter. Now it says here that it is a starch-free smoothing spray. It comes in 6 different I guess scents, but this one here that I've got is scentless. So it's the scentless option. They do provide you with the little spray thing, so I'm certainly going to give that one a go. It looks pretty cool. The next item in here are called Wonder Pins. These are pins that you should be able to pin with one hand while you keep going. So I'll definitely give them a go. Not sure about them yet, but certainly always willing to give these things a go. Yeah, we'll see what that one looks like. It does look a bit exciting. There's 20 in there. They come in pink and yellow. So definitely worth a look. One of my favourite things in a sew sampler box is the 45mm endurance blade. I go through lots of these. If you watch some of my other tutorials, every 1 to 2 quilts I replace the blades. I only use the endurance blades because they do, well, I feel like they last longer. So definitely love getting this in my Happy Mail, that's for sure. Now, what fabric did we get for May? It's from Wyndham's Fabric. It's called Clover and Dot. It's a jelly roll and it looks really exciting. I love the colours in there. Really nice rainbow of colours, that's for sure. So we'll definitely be having a look at what we can create with that one. The quilt pattern for May is Spring Ivy. If you watch my April tutorial, you know that I tend to like to give them a twist, and when I received this today, I was already thinking of the twist that I will put to Spring Ivy. I really just like to try something different, take what they've got, build on it and create something that's quite unique. I don't always do it, but I always like to make some small changes to the patterns that I receive just because it gives it something different to think about and just allows me to work with my creativity. So there's that one. Then for May, we have the new Pieceful Baskets. Doesn't that look quite cute? Very cute. And this one is called Twin Star Basket Block. So today we're going to create the Twin Star Basket Block. I'm going to be using Peachy Keen fabric from Corey Yoder. I love her fabric. I think she's absolutely great designer. So I really enjoy sewing with her fabric. So for this particular basket, the one that we've got today, I'm going to switch out the fabric. So for the basket bottom, I'm going to use this stripy blue, which I think will look really cute. For the, I guess it's the edges of the basket, I'm going to use the green gingham. The background, I'm going to use this grey. I think it's quite cute as well. And then for the twin stars, I'm going to use this peachy fabric. So I think that will look really cute. And I'm just using her white on white background. So as we started this last time, I like to make sure that I use up all my scraps. So when I get the new one, I just pull out what I haven't used and we'll see how far that goes. I think today we'll be able to use this to create everything. As I've mentioned before, this is not my pattern. It's for sew sampler members. So if you're a sew sampler member, go and grab out your pattern and let's create together. If you're not, maybe you'll need to look at the Fat Quarter shop and see if you can get access to the pattern. I'm not sure when they become available, but this is definitely a really good sew along if you are able to get hold of the pattern. So let's get started. Okay, so let's get started with block number 2. So let's, before we do that, we'll just recap. This is block number 1 and how that turned out for me. Again, using that Peachy Keen fabric by Corey Yoder. So we're just going to go for a different variation of colours for that today. I'll just pop that one aside. Okay, what will we need today? So we're definitely going to need a rotary cutter for cutting up the fabric. We'll need a friction pen or another marking tool that you might have. I tend to use the friction pen for my marking. I find that it's quite versatile, and also when I'm ironing it irons off. And we'll need a variety of rulers. I may also use, because there's some small pieces, this smaller ruler as well, the 4.5 by 2.5. I find that to be a really handy size for cutting up those small pieces. I tend to use the ruler that suits the fabric size, so I wouldn't use something big like this one on a 2.5 inch piece, whereas this one here, I've got more control and I know exactly what's going on. So we are going to get started. So I'm going to go and cut all of this up, and then as soon as we've got that cut up, we'll start doing the step-by-step instructions to create this quilt block. Okay, so that's the cutting up done. I've been to the ironing board and given it a quick press. I've also cut down the squares that needed to be cut down, whether they were in half or into 4, so I've done that already. So we are all set, ready to do step 1 of block number 2, Twin Stars basket block. So we're just going to pop aside what we don't need, and our first step is to create the half hourglass units. So we're going to need these 2 pieces, we'll need 2 of those, and we'll need 2 of those. So we're just going to pop the rest aside. So what we're going to do is we're going to create them like this, and we need 2 of these. So that is what our first block is going to look like. So for our first step, we're going to pin right sides together of these 2 pieces. And right sides together of these ones. Now, I put my pins further back from the edge, and the reason I do that is so that I can sew all the way up without having to take the pins out, because I like to take those pins out after. So we're going to head over to the sewing machine now, and we're going to start to sew these together. Now in this pattern, it does indicate that we're going to press all our seams open today, unless it tells us to do something different. So all our pressing will follow the instructions, and we'll be pressing open unless it shares with us to do something a little bit different. Let's head to the sewing machine. Okay, so we're at the sewing machine and we're going to get ready to stitch up our first pieces here. Today we're going to use the 1/4 inch foot. I don't know if you can see that one. That's excellent, and has the guide on the side here that we're going to use when we're placing our fabric. Sorry, just there. We're just going to attach that one now. I tend to just use my fingers to get it slightly tighter there, and then just an extra nudge with the screwdriver. Pop that there. So I use a Juki TL2010Q on, and I have the stitch length at about 1.3. I do like that tighter stitch length. I think that it gives a much better finish, but one of the things with that is when you're having that tighter stitch length, when you go to unpick, if you need to unpick, and definitely I do unpick, it is a little bit more difficult. So we're just going to go ahead and pop these two through. So first one in. And we won't take that one out. We're just going to pop the next one in behind it. And stitch down. So we'll do the snips there. Now with this piece here, that we do have the cutter on the back here, so you can just cut them if you've got two. If you've got multiple, grab your snips and cut them. So we'll remove our pins. And we're going to head to the ironing board and iron those ones open. Apologies again for my dirty ironing board. It's very well used, but I do love it. I did go and look on the weekend. We have in Australia a place called Spotlight, just for some canvasy type fabric to cover it and just get a new underneath piece, but I couldn't find anything that I fell in love with, so I didn't get anything on that visit. So I'm going to head back next weekend and see how I go. It's a long weekend, this coming weekend in Australia, in South Australia, so I'm going to head back and have a look and see what I can do. So firstly we're going to set that seam, then I iron to one side, turn it over and iron open. And we're going to repeat that for the other one. So again, set the seam, iron to one side. Oops, sometimes my iron does that. And then iron open. I use a Laura Star iron. I do like them, but every now and again it sort of catches the fabric, and I'm not sure why, because it's a fairly flat surface on the bottom. But I do really like it. It's a very hot iron, so I find that it does give me some relatively flat seams. So at this stage we should have half of these hourglass squares all made up. So we're going to head back to the sewing table, sewing machine, and we're going to pin up the next section. Okay, back at the sewing table. What we're going to do is join right sides together. Just going to line up the outsides here. Line that up. Pop one in the middle, and then I'm just going to pop one on each side. And we'll repeat that for the other one. So again, right sides together. Let's join that top up. Just get that nice and straight. And one in the middle and one on each side. Okay, now, whoopsie daisies, we're just going to zip these ones down. Because these are on the biased, I am stitching down quite slowly, just so that they don't stretch too much. that's both done, again you can use the little cutter on the back or use your snips. Okay, well, let's head to the ironing board and get these pressed open. Okay, back at the ironing room. Well, actually the ironing section, because my table is just split up into 4 different sections. Just iron open one side, and then we're just going to line this one, and just one end to the other. Tend to just pop a tiny bit of steam on there, and again to and iron one side. Now, because this is on the bias, we don't really want to stretch the fabric, so we want to make sure that we just are nice and gentle and not really pushing and pulling that fabric when we're ironing it. So after this point, this is what we will have: 2 half-hourglass ready to be, we're going to snip those down. Okay, so we are going to square up these blocks first. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that as the first step. So just using the lines on the ruler. So I'm using a 4.5 by 4.5 inch ruler for this one. I don't think I have a 3.5 by 3.5. And then we'll just do the other one. Just clean up this other side. Here while I'm here. And it's just a little bit off that one. I'll just clean that side up and we are all good to go. Just pop that in there. So that's our first 2 blocks complete. They are the half-hourglass units. So we have 2 half-hourglass units, and we're going to pop those aside for now. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use some grey and some green, and we're going to make some half square triangles. So for this, we're going to use a friction pen, and we're just going to grab our ruler, and we're going to mark on here from corner to corner, and we're going to do that on both the grey pieces. Okay, so that's our corner to corner. We're then going to match these right sides together. Now these are relatively small, so you could easily just head to the sewing machine now and stitch those right sides together. I'm just going to pop a pin in each of the corners though, and that will just help to stabilize that when it's going through the machine. We're going to do the same thing here for both and pop that through. Oopsie daisies. Sometimes with nails it can be a bit tricky picking up some of those pins. So this is what they should look like at this stage. Let's head to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch these ones up. Okay, for this one we need to change the foot over. So we want to change it to the open toe foot, because we're actually going to sew 1/4 inch either side of our marked lines. So I'm just going to use the screwdriver just to loosen that off a little bit. use my finger to loosen it. Pop the next one in, use the finger again to tighten that up, and then use the screwdriver to give it a little nudge to make sure it's nice and firm. I pull that fabric under, and we're going to stitch 1/4 inch off each side, on each side of that line that we just marked on. And then down the other side. And we're going to repeat that for our second block. Just notice that's a little bit wonky there, so let's just clean that up. And down the other side. Okay, so we should have both of our blocks with 1/4 inch stitch either side of that diagonal line that we've drawn on there. Let's head to the cutting table. We're going to cut these open on the marked line before we do any ironing. Okay, so we have both of our pieces here. We're just going to take out those pins. And we're just going to line our ruler up on that marked line that we did earlier, and just pop a little bit of pressure on there and mark that, cut that down. We'll repeat that for the second one. Lining back up on that line, a little bit of pressure, and straight down. So what we should have is 4 ready to go. So now let's head to the ironing board, and we're going to iron these open as well. Okay, so we have our 4. Let's set the seam. Iron to one side, then turn it over, pop that apart, and that is our complete piece there. I'm just going to go ahead and iron the rest of these open, and I'm going to meet you back at the cutting table for our next step. Okay, so we're just going to square up these half square triangles now. I'm just going to use the markings on the ruler to help me with this. I always have to put a little bit of pressure when I am on the ruler, just to make sure that it doesn't move. I've seen lots of grippy things that people have, but I tend to just put a tiny bit of pressure on the ruler. It's not much. Just get rid of that dog ear there and pop that one around. Okay, so that's what they should look like at this stage. Now we're going to assemble the middle section of our block. So let's just, let's pace it out first, and then we'll start sewing it together. So there's the first piece. Okay, and we'll have one half square triangle that we won't use today. So we're just going to pop that one aside, but you can see here what we're going to do first. So we're just going to head to the sewing table. Actually, let's pin while we're here. So let's work out. So we're going to go in rows. So we know we're going to put this one here with this one here. And let's pop that right sides together. And what I'll do is I'll pop a pin at each end, and that will stabilise that in place. Make sure you match up the sides and the top so you don't want it wonky. And so that's our first bit in. We're then going to do our next one. And pop that in. And then that one's done, and this one here. Let's just check that again. Green, yep, beautiful. The last thing we want to do is get to the sewing table, sew up this beautiful block, and then realise that we have to do some unpicking. Definitely happened to me plenty of times, but it's generally when I'm not thinking as well as I should be. Okay, so that's what we're going to sew up first. I am going to take these extra ones here, but because before we go and do the ironing, we're going to place those extra ones on, so then we can just maximise the amount that we can get sewn, and then we can iron up as well. So let's head back to the sewing table. Okay, so as I've mentioned, my pins are always set back. Oh, no. Let's just replace this. We need the 1/4 inch foot back on now. So just unscrew that one, put this one back in. Our 1/4 inch foot is back on, and just firm that one up a little bit. We don't want it falling out while we're stitching. So we're going to go ahead and stitch these ones first. And we don't need to let that one off yet. We can then just go ahead and do the next one. And we've got our last one here ready to go. So we'll pop all these through. Okay. I'm just going to use my snips here for this one. Generally have smaller snips sitting here, but the bigger ones are here today. Pop the pins out. Okay, this one here we can pop to the side. That's all we're going to do on that one before we go and iron it. This next one, this is our second piece. So we've got in here already, we've got the blue, the basket, I call it like a little blanket that's in the basket, and we now want to attach the half hourglass to the other side, and that will go out ways. So let's just pop that here. Right sides together. Okay, that's that one. And then what have we got here? This is our last one. So there's a blanket there. We've got the half hourglass coming out, and we just want to join on this piece here last. So we're going to go right sides together And let's pop that one on. Again, pin in each edge. And then we're just going to go ahead and sew these ones up. No need to snip, and let's just do the next one. And they're ready to go. Now let's go to the ironing table and let's press all of these open. Okay, so we have all of our pieces here. So set the seam, press open. It's naturally going to want to go where there's less seam intersecting, and then iron that open at the back. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do the rest of that ironing and then I'll meet you back at the sewing table. Okay, at this stage we should have something that looks a bit like this. So we're going to go ahead now and we're going to piece these together. And where's my smaller piece gone? Must have popped it back over on the side. So we're going to piece these together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to piece these ones together. So we're going to look for the intersection of those seams and we want to make sure we line those up. What I do is pop a pin. You can pop one in the middle or one on either side, whatever is your preference. Depending on what I'm sewing, I don't always put it on each side, but today I'm going to pop that one in. Let's just pop that there. And one on each end. Perfect, so that's what that one will look like. Then we've got our next one here. We're just going to pop that across. Just turn that around so I can pin it. I'm just going to pop a pin in the end. One in each end. And then I like to pop one in the middle as well. Okay, let's head back to our sewing machine and let's sew these ones all up. Okay, so we are back and let's stitch this one up first. To do is we could go and iron right now, but we can also put together our next lot of pieces, and then just go and iron it in one hit. If you had your ironing board right next door, then absolutely that's something you could do. But I'm going to maximise the time I have at the sewing machine, and I'm going to place these. So that's the way our block goes. I'm going to place these ones together, and again I'm going to pin them, and I'm going to put one on each side. And that one there. Oops, we got an extra pin. And we'll just grab that one and we'll put one in the end. So I generally, for something this size, one on each end and at any connecting seams, or if there's no connecting seams, each end and in the middle. So we're just going to zip this one through, and I'm going to meet you over at the ironing table. Okay, sorry folks, I started ironing and didn't realise I hadn't turned the video on. Sorry about that. So I have ironed one already. So I'm just up to pressing these seams, and we'll just go and iron the rest of these out now. Okay, so our next step is we're going to grab this side piece and we're going to attach that here. So again, we're going to use the same as what we've done before. We're going to line up both of the ends, pop a pin in, because these are a bit not as deep, and I like to be able to stitch from one end to the other. I am going to just pop them in sideways there. And again, let's do that one in the middle. Now, while we're here this time, we are going to pin up and get ready for the next piece. So we're just going to pop that aside. And we're going to grab two small squares here. Using our friction pen, we're going to make sure on the wrong side that we mark our line from diagonal to diagonal. Then with right sides together, we're going to stitch this one as well. And we're going to stitch on each side of that line. So you can imagine this is quite small. So we're going to take this to the ironing board at the same time. Let's just have a look at that one. We're going to take this to the sewing table. And we're going to sew that one up as well. So then that gets us started on that next section. Okay, so for our first one to finish off this piece, we are going to pop that on and stitch through. And that one's done. So just keeping those pins out the way and changing it to the side just makes sure that I'm not going to connect it in with my foot and break a needle where I don't need to. So that's ready to go back to the ironing board. And now we're going to get this piece. So for this piece here, we do need to change our foot over, and we're going to go to that open toe foot. Pop that one in. And tighten it up, and we're just going to pop in the side here. Now you don't need to use pins on this one necessarily. cord in there. Just pull that one out and go down the other side. Okay, and then I'm going to quickly trim this up and I'm going to meet you back at the ironing board. So I just snuck past the cutting table, and on that line that we marked, I've then cut that down. So what we need to do is set the seam and iron that one to one side. And then we're going to open this up at the back. And there we go. There's one of our little half square triangles. They are so cute. There we go. Then this first border that we popped on, we're just going to iron that one. And okay, this one here, I'm actually going to iron that. Don't know if you can see there. I caught that in when I was stitching. So rather than cause it any more grief, I'm actually just going to iron both of those to one side. My preference is always to iron to one side, but where patterns ask me to do it differently, I do that. But I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on this. The bulk of these connecting seams are here, and there'll be some connecting seams with these ones, but I think we're quite safe if you wanted to iron to one side with these borders that we've just added on. So there we go. Isn't that looking gorgeous? Let's head back and let's start the next couple of steps. All right, we are just going to trim up this block as it suggests. So again, I'm going to put a tiny bit of pressure on here and we're going to trim up. Now there won't be a lot come off because I do find using the 1/4 inch foot that sometimes I don't get a lot extra to cut with, so I'm just checking this out now, and that's definitely correct, and that's okay, we'll work with that. Alright, so pop that one to the side and we'll start on the next piece. Okay, so a quick trip to the basketball stadium to pick up my son, and I am back. Alright, so we're just going to trim these ones down. I'm just going to trim it this way. And that's that one ready to go. So what are our next steps? We are going to, got this one here, this one here, and then just have a look, we want this one here. Then this one, and this one. Okay, then on top of that, we have this one. And that one. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start pinning these together. And for this one, I'm just going to pop one pin in there just to hold it in place. And then we're just going to pin this one. And I'll pop one in each side to hold that in place. And then the same again, so making sure that we are following the pattern. And we've got one down and then this one, so our little the white piece is going to flow outwards on this one, that one, and then this one. So just make sure that you have the right sides together, especially if you're using the pattern white. The last thing you want is to put all of this together and then realize one of them is around the wrong way. So we're going to go ahead and stitch these pieces. I am going to take these additional pieces to the sewing table and we're going to stitch those on before we go and do our ironing. That way then we can pop back and piece these together. All right, let's head over to the sewing table. Okay, with this one we need to swap that foot back. So just loosen it off again. Grab another one and put that in. There we go. Oops. Perfect. Okay, so we'll just take that first piece. Second one. Okay, so that's all of those pieces sewn together. We're just going to grab those out. And I'm just going to use the snips here to pop them apart. Oops. Okay, these two here we can pop to the side, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to do it exactly like this. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to do right sides together and just check that they're right sides together, and we'll pin that one in place. Get that one ready to go. Then we've got our other piece here. So that one is going to go down like that, and we're going to pin this one right sides together. And pop the pin in for that one. Okay, let's go ahead and sew these up. So I'm going to go ahead and iron these. We're going to follow the same ironing that we've done before, and then I'm going to meet you back at the sewing table. Okay, so here's our middle piece, and we're going to go ahead and we want to put one here, and the next one will go here, then we want, whoops, that one like that, and that one like that. So that is roughly what we need to do next, and that looks pretty spot on. So first things first, let's pop the first one on, and we're going to stitch. So joining up those seams, popping pin in. I'm going to pop one in either side. You can pop it through the middle, one on the end, again putting that in sideways, and then out to the other side, and then let's look for that middle spot. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to sew and iron all of these borders on, and then I'm going to meet you back here for us to start on the next piece. Okay, we're back, and just like that we have these extra borders on. So our next step is to again square this up before we do the next piece. So what are we looking at for this one? So again, this is pretty much spot on without any extras. So there's just a couple of little whispers along here, but definitely nothing spare. This pattern certainly and all that does is take off the whispers on the side. So that is the inside of our block. We're now going to move on to putting on our putting on the outside of the block. So we'll just pop that one aside for the moment. Now, what do we need for this? We need a piece of white, and we need the coloured piece, which is the same as what our basket is. So we're firstly going to go diagonal type diagonal on a coloured piece. We're just going to do that again. That hasn't quite shown up as well as I would like it to, so I'll just make that a little bit darker. There we go, perfect. Okay, and we are going to put this in this corner, just like that, right sides together. So making sure you check that you've got the right side up. Pop that pin in there, and another one in there, and we are going to go and stitch on the line. So let's head back to the sewing machine and get that one stitched up. Okay, so again we're going to do another foot change and go back to our open toe foot. And we're going to zip across on that marked line. that, just like that, we're done. Let's head back and we're going to cut off that excess and iron it open. I'm going to go and do that, and I'm going to meet you back at the sewing table once that's complete. Okay, so our next step is we're going to cut on the diagonal across here on both of our big pieces of white background. So we're just going to grab, nope, that one's not long enough. So let's just grab the longer one here. And we're going to match up corner to corner. Pop a little bit of pressure on and straight through the middle. And we have our two pieces that we need. We'll pop those ones to the side. And then we're going to grab the other piece, diagonal to diagonal. And through to the side. Okay. Let's just bring this one back in. Doing it upside down might be a little bit tricky for me, but let's see how we go. Right. That's the first one. The second one. So it gives it that little, gives it the basket is sitting down on something. Then we've got this one and this one, and again, doesn't that look absolutely stunning? I really do love it. So what are we going to do first? We are going to put one of the bottoms on first. We're going to match that up from side to side, leaving very similar piece on each end. Then all I'm going to do is put a pin in this one, this one, and one at the end. That just keeps it all stable and in position for us. Just pull that back a little bit. And so that's now ready to be sewn. I'm going to go ahead and sew each of these corners on, and I'm going to come back to you once they're all finished. Okay, so we have put the 4 sides on. Now, when we did iron these, we did iron them to one way. So you'll notice that I've ironed out. That's the direction that they've asked you to do in the pattern. So everything on the inside was ironed open, and then when we pop these last corners on, they are ironed out. So the last step for us is to just line that all up and give that a little, and we're just going to do the last lot of and again, there is nothing extra for us on this block. We are right on the corners of where we need to be. So if anything, that one's just maybe a smidgen too small, although no, not quite. It's right on. And let's just turn this around. Just pop this up here so I've got something to work with. And we are right on that edge. There's a tiny bit at the bottom there that we're going to take off. And the last side, which is the bottom, line that up. I just line it up on the board using the board because I don't have a ruler big enough. And again, let's just pop that there. There is a tiny bit on this one here. Now that brings us to the end of our tutorial today. So this is the Twin Stars basket block that we finished today. That's block number 2 of the Pieceful Baskets Sew Along from the Fat Quarter Shop Sew Sampler box. I have thoroughly enjoyed sewing this one with you today, and I do hope that you enjoyed it as well. I love providing step-by-step instructions to be able to share with everybody how I go about piecing together my blocks. This is block number 1, and as you can see from both of the blocks, I'm using the Peachy Keen fabric from Corey Yoder. I love Corey Yoder. I love everything she's about. I love every collection that she has, and I have a lot of her fabric in my fabric stash. If you've enjoyed today's tutorial, please hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my content, please subscribe to my channel. That way you'll be informed each month when these come out. In Australia, we are relying on the shipping. We're forever thankful to the Fat Quarter Shop for allowing their sew sampler boxes to be shipped across to Australia. But we're not 100% sure what day we're going to receive them. So as soon as I receive my happy mail, I'm very excited, and I will definitely be sharing next month's Pieceful Basket block with you. In the meantime, have a lovely day, keep crafting, and thank you so much for joining me on today's tutorial. Bye!